If you've struggled with substance use, I want to help you see a dynamic that the monkey mind often creates for people who have had a history of substance abuse. And especially if you've been sober for a while, there's probably even more awareness around this dynamic. And what I'm referring to is the idea that you are different than other people. The monkey mind builds a lot of stories about who we are when we've had a problem with drugs or alcohol. And it starts to put us in the category of, oh, I'm not like that person. And oftentimes it's normal. We even want to hang out with people who are sober like us, and we seek relationships with people who have struggled like us. So we identified with them. And that's perfectly fine because it's really helpful to have someone who understands the experiences that you've been through. Yet, there is something that's really anxiety producing to keep thinking that I'm different than other people. And I want to help you see a different perspective, which is, in my book, Addicted to the Monkey Mind, I refer to that the real addiction wasn't drugs or alcohol. The real addiction was having no ability to unhook from the monkey mind, meaning that our conditioned thoughts kept leading the way, leading every experience we were having. And it was leading us to experience a tremendous amount of anxiety. And that leaves us with the only option to relieve us from anxiety was to use. Now, other people, are they really different? Meaning, do they have a monkey mind? And we actually don't think about this, but it's really true. Everyone, it's very rare that I've met people who didn't have a monkey mind and weren't conditioned to actually think the way they do, and that conditioning creates a lot of anxiety. In reality, we're so much more alike. We all suffer from this deep sense that on some level we're not okay. And some of us are not able to admit it. It's too challenging. Our mind is too busy thinking that life is just fine. But in reality, when we actually establish a relationship with our nervous system, we get to understand that this is the deeper truth. What if you could see yourself much more as someone who has suffered from anxiety and start noticing that the people around you might not have a substance use problem, and yet they're still stressed out. They still have the same issues that we're all struggling with, the stress about finances and the stress about raising children and the stress about being in a relationship and the conflicts that are there and the anxiety about what gives me purpose in life and the anxiety of, did I do it wrong or should I have done it differently? There's endless amount of monkey mind thinking that leads us to feel anxious. And here's the biggest thing about coming with this realization to build more awareness around this, is that we have a tendency to other people. And I don't know anybody that doesn't do this. It's unconscious and epidemic in our society. We have this habit of wanting people to be more like us. And somehow we believe that will create safety. And what we're not paying attention to is that the monkey mind leads us to think that the details of life is what makes us more like other people. If you play golf, then you're more like me because I play golf. But in reality, emotionally, we're all the same. Emotionally, we're suffering from a monkey mind. And if we can actually realize how true this is, then we actually can have a different perspective on how we actually relate to other people, how we actually belong. I want to invite you to notice how many times, if somebody offers you a drink, or if you're in a situation where you have to say no, I want you to notice the tendency to follow a story that says, I'm different. And the invitation is to rephrase this into, oh, wait a second. This was just a coping mechanism. And people around me have different coping mechanism. Maybe they overwork. Maybe they spent their time on their phones and get distracted. Or we all have coping mechanism. And the one coping mechanism that you had doesn't mean that you're actually different than other people. And it's important to understand that I'm not referring to being in denial that you had a substance use problem. Oftentimes that's the biggest fear. It's the biggest fear of, if I don't stay in touch with the fact that I had this problem, because a lot of people who've had substance use problem go through a stage of denial, and they have to admit to themselves, yes, okay, that's true. I got to get over this, and I got to admit to myself that I have a problem. That's needed. It's important for us to get out of denial. What I'm referring to here is not getting out of denial. I'm talking about you've been sober for a while. You've gotten out of the denial. Now it's about being in relationship, being in connection. And notice that if we keep following a story that I'm different, it also leads to thinking that there's something wrong with me on some level, because being different, oftentimes in the monkey mind's mindset, it's not a positive thing. Here's the invitation. Be kind to yourself. Notice that people are much more like you emotionally, and pay attention to your own story that keeps you separated from other people, and see if you can find the ways that people have similar emotions than you, and then realize, oh, this is the doorway to connection, is I can connect with them there. I can share my experience, and they can share their experience. Thank you for spending this time with me. This podcast is meant to be more than just information. If there's one thing I've learned over the years, is that we are wired for connection. And if we are to learn the skills of living beyond this monkey mind that can be so overwhelming, it's best to do it together. And for that purpose, we've created groups. We call them pods, and we name them Aviv la Vie, which means live life to the fullest. Come and join us.